Last spring, I visited the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse with my school's Criminal Justice Club. We sat through about 24 alternative to incarceration cases, a new initiative in New York which aims to provide rehabilitative solutions to people struggling with substance use, instead of simply sending them to jail or to prison. One by one, each defendant went up to the judge. Some were wearing handcuffs, and others were escorted from a holding cell. The atmosphere was tense and at times heartbreaking. Although, at the end of each exchange, if the defendant had successfully stayed sober, the judge rang a cowbell, momentarily breaking the rigid environment just long enough to let in relief, humility, and celebration. That moment was unforgettable, because unfortunately, moments like this, where the justice system pauses to acknowledge a person's compassion and not just take them for their failures, are painfully rare. Witnessing this judge's humility and seeing the power of programs that help reduce recidivism is what sparked my passion for criminal justice. So, I began researching the success of alternative incarceration programs and the roots of mass incarceration in the US. First, let's look into the scope and severity of this problem. The numbers pretty much speak for themselves. As you can see, according to the Prison Policy Initiative, the US incarceration rate is 4 times greater than that of our closest international allies. Even here in New York, where we incarcerate at a lower rate than the national average, we still incarcerate at double the rate of other NATO countries. This is not just a national problem, it's a crisis. And it does not affect all communities equally. According to the Sentencing Project, the horrors of our justice system disproportionately affect minorities and underserved communities. For this, pretrial detention is to blame. Prior to the Bail Reform Act, pretrial detention was rare, used only when the defendant posed a flight risk. Although, due to a series of judicial rulings in 1984, pretrial detention was legalized on the basis of perceived dangerousness. Here, you can see that such a large portion of the people in US jails are not convicted, but are in jail awaiting trial. This system creates a few major problems. First, it undermines the presumption of innocence, which is fundamental to US constitutional law. Second, it gives judges broad discretion to define dangerousness, opening up the door for implicit biases. And third, it punishes poverty, placing defendants in jail based off their ability to afford or their inability to afford bail. Take Rikers Island, for example. At 413 acres, Rikers Island is the largest detention center in the world, right here in Queens, New York. Most of the people at Rikers are awaiting trial or serving short sentences under 1 year. Right now, Rikers is at the center of a human rights crisis, so severe that New York City has passed a bill vowing to close Rikers permanently by 2027. This legislation is a step in the right direction, as it poses a pragmatic solution which aims to improve the human rights at this facility. Another huge contributor to mass incarceration is the strict drug laws which emerged from the war on drugs in 1971. These laws left nonviolent offenders serving life sentences with no chance for parole. Thanks to President Obama's Clemency Initiative, my mentor, attorney Brittany Barnett, has facilitated the release of many nonviolent offenders from life sentences. I was recently able to connect with Brittany, and her message stuck with me. She said, "The criminal legal system often forgets the humanity of the people caught in it. Justice should never be about reducing someone to the worst mistake they have ever made." From my conversation with Brittany, from going to criminal court, and from researching the policy reforms which both cause mass incarceration and aim to limit it, I have come to 2 conclusions. First, there is no single foolproof solution to the criminal justice crisis. Second, there is potential for positive change on every level. Take federal jurisdiction like the Clemency Initiative, statewide jurisdiction like the closing of Rikers Island and the Alternatives to Incarceration program, and the action of each and every single judge in their courtroom. What each of these forms of justice have in common is their commitment to honoring humanity. So, yes, mass incarceration is a massive problem. And yes, its scale within the US is both egregious and increasing. With this in mind, an emphasis on humanity must guide every step we take towards criminal justice reform. Thank you.